This time on Motor Week, will maturity spoil the Neon? Another quintessential Quigley, and more auto angst and anger. So come drive with us next.
Motor Week, television's original automotive magazine. Brought to you by Pep Boys. No matter what you drive, Pep Boys has over 27,000 items in stock, virtually any part for any car, with all the name brands you know. Plus service bays staffed with ASE certified technicians. Pep Boys, parts, tires, accessories, service. And by Duplicolor, for your automotive paint needs, for color-matched scratch repair, for high-performance engine paint, and for specialty coatings. Since 1938, get the job done right. Duplicolor. Your host for Motor Week, John Davis.
Well, hello and welcome again to Motor Week. We're glad to have you with us. When it was first launched in 1994, the Dodge Plymouth Neon was presented as a car with a somewhat rambunctious and carefree nature and aimed at those with a similar mindset. But as any adult will tell you, rambunctious and carefree will only take you so far. To be successful, a maturing process must take place. Well, this new 2000 Neon looks to have handled puberty pretty well. But now that it's more grown up, does the new Neon still like to party? Well, if you're expecting the more mature 2000 model Neon to lose the cute, fun-loving character of its predecessor, you're in for a disappointment, but it has grown up a bit. The new Dodge and Plymouth Neon sedans, the coupe has been canceled, are more mature in appearance, but still retain a charming friendliness that's missing in most of today's cars. The bug-eyed look stays, but has been refined with a smoother front fascia and new jewel-look headlamps, while the tail is all new, from the deck lid to the taillights to a blended-in bumper. The Neon is also longer by almost 3 inches, and the wheelbase has been increased by 1 inch for a total of 150 overall. Under the new hood, Chrysler has simplified your engine choices. You don't get one. The only available engine is now the upgraded 2-liter single overhead cam 4-cylinder. It generates 132 horsepower and 130 pound-feet of torque. Losing the 150 horsepower dual cam unit was a great disappointment to our staff, or so we thought. The current engine does at least get a choice of transmission. Now, we favor our test car's standard 5-speed manual over the optional and rather limited 3-speed non-overdrive automatic. With gears manually engaged, our Dodge Neon ES ran a surprising 0 to 60 time of 8.4 seconds. That's faster than last year's 150-horse Dodge Neon RT. The faster quarter-mile run, 16.6 seconds at 84 miles per hour, matched that of the RT exactly. Amazing what a new intake manifold and induction system will do. It's still a pretty buzzy little engine, but its wider power band and sweet shifter make that a lot easier to live with. To complement the Neon's newfound speed is a redesigned McPherson strut suspension that includes standard rear sway bars and revalved shock absorbers. This gives the already nimble Neon a more stable feel with less front-end plow in corners. Lateral transitions are smoother and body roll is substantially reduced, while the new power rack and pinion steering is quicker with better feel. And ES models now all wear larger 15-inch wheels, in our case an optional aluminum alloy. The new suspension has made it to a stiffer platform for a noticeable improvement in ride quality. But despite Chrysler's claim of big improvements in noise and vibration control, we still find the Neon allows more interior intrusions than many import and domestic competitors. No complaints about braking, however. We averaged a reasonable 125 feet from 60, thanks to our ES grade test car's optional 4-wheel disc and anti-lock system. New disc and calipers provide plenty of feel. Stability is also very good. The standard brake setup is front disc mated to rear drums. Maturing changes continue inside the Neon too. The already class-leading interior space has been expanded with increases in hip, shoulder, and rear headroom. There's also a new, more sophisticatedly styled dash, constructed of higher quality materials, and a longer list of standard features including a rear defroster and intermittent wipers. Our ES also features stylish white-faced analog gauges and manually adjusted front bucket seats that are wide and firm with good support. The dash that they face holds Chrysler's usual excellent ventilation controls. and either a standard cassette stereo or our car's optional CD player, a nice unit that's set a bit too low. The rear bench seat, while very roomy, is quite flat and a bit too firm. A 60-40 split seat back is standard equipment, allowing you to expand on a trunk capacity that now measures 13.1 cubic feet, a healthy increase over last year's 11.8 cubic feet. Naturally, when performance, features, and interior space increase, so does the price. Neon prices now start at $12,890. But with every option from traction control to power locks, our Dodge ES grade tester still topped out at a very attractive $16,080 after factory discounts. We're quite impressed. The new larger Neon is a lot of car for the money, though our friends at Automobile Magazine aren't quite as impressed as we are. They said that the engineers have largely succeeded in making the Neon seem more sophisticated and less disposable. We look forward to a fresh injection of fun, however. Fun that they expect to see when the RT version is reintroduced for 2001. Until then, however, we will continue to be impressed with the larger, if more mature Dodge and Plymouth Neon. It's still cute, it's still fun to drive, and it still offers excellent small car value. But it's also more refined in both performance and appearance and more solidly built. The new Neon has embraced adulthood and all of its responsibilities without losing the spunky personality that made it the life of the small car party. To get the most out of four-wheel ABS brakes, remember three little words: stomp, stay, and steer. Stomp the brake pedal in a panic stop, stay on the brake pedal even if it vibrates or makes noise, and steer where you want to go. ABS brakes work best when you stomp, stay, and steer. Coming up, hot tempers on the highway. Now, viewers who take Pat Goss's advice to heart no doubt have fine running vehicles. But this week, Pat brings us some tips designed to keep your vehicle looking as good as it drives.
John, cars cost a lot of money today, so we want to keep them looking good for a long time. The best way to do that is with a good system of paint maintenance. Now, you're going to start out by washing the car, and that involves a couple of steps. First, you rinse the entire car to get rid of any loose particles that may be laying on it. Then you mix up a solution of washing soap and water. But make sure that you use car wash soap, not laundry or dishwashing detergent, because some of those could be damaging to the finish on your car. Well, one thing you have to be real careful of, though, is if you own a pressure washer. Some of those produce tremendous amounts of pressure, enough that they can actually strip the paint right off of your car. Now, believe me, that will ruin your entire morning. Now, once you get around to the washing portion of it, here's something that we've all used for years and years. Our trusted sponge will throw that away. It holds dirt in the pores of it, and with these new clear coat finishes, I guarantee you'll wind up with scratches. You can use a fresh, clean terry cloth towel or a wash mitt. Either one is perfectly acceptable. Always start from the top of the car, work your way down, and always go in straight lines, never in circles. Never use mechanics shop towels, because many of them are recycled and they have chemicals in them, and they may have abrasive materials sticking to the fibers. Brushes for the tires and wheels, perfectly acceptable. So now you've got it washed, you rinse it very, very thoroughly. Once it's rinsed, you have to dry the car. Okay, what can we use to dry it? An artificial chamois, a real chamois, or here's a tip from a viewer of several years ago. You take a high-power leaf blower, go over the entire car with the leaf blower. It gets into all the nooks and crannies of the car, gets rid of all of the moisture. Really works well. Okay, we've washed it, we've dried it, now we're ready to go on to protecting the paint. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to use a cleaner. This gets rid of contaminants on the surface of the paint that washing didn't. Cleans the paint, doesn't do anything else. Next is a polish. The polish will bring up the shine in the paint, but it will not protect the paint. So, what do we do last? We use a good high-quality wax. The wax will protect the paint. It forms a barrier between the surface of the paint and the elements. This is very critical. Now, a couple of other things. In applying these polishes and waxes and so on, always use clean terry cloth or one of the special wax cloths. Here, buffers. If you have a buffer, make sure you know how to use it before you put it on the finish of your new car. And if you have one of these big commercial ones, be very, very careful. Follow all the steps, your car will look like new for years. Got a question? Write to me. If I use your letter, I'll send you a Motor Week t-shirt. The address is Motor Week, Owings Mills, Maryland, 21117.
Our car of the week is a 1961 Chrysler 300G, owned by Rick Tibbin of Huntington Beach, California. After a 5-year restoration, much of it done in Rick's own driveway, the hulking 300G spins out 375 horsepower and pulls 495 pound-feet of torque from its dual-carb V8. Now, if you have an impressive piece of American iron, we'd love to see it. Send 2 good color photos to Motor Week, Owings Mills, Maryland, 21117. While it may have faded a bit from the headlines, incidents of road rage violence continue on the rise. Why has anger become such an integral part of our daily commutes? Well, this week, FYI reporter Lisa Barrow takes a close look at this recent cultural phenomena and offers some insight on combating our road rageous behavior.
You see them every day.
Learn to drive!
Speeders, tailgaters, stupid drivers, aggressive drivers.
Stupid!
Come on!
But just what is it that drives these people? And are you one of them?
The AAA Foundation for Traffic Safety recently sponsored a study on aggressive driving. They looked at over 10,000 incidents between January of 1990 and August of 1996, and they found some interesting results.
We were looking for relationships between aggressive driving and congestion, for example. There doesn't seem to be much of one. You find it in completely uncongested areas of the country. You find it in rural areas, in urban areas, in small towns, in large cities. It's happening all over the country.
According to the study, the typical aggressive driver is male between the ages of 18 and 26.
But we shouldn't be lulled into believing that it's just young men who are the problem, that there are incidents of aggressive driver involving people up into their 70s, men and women.
Many experts attribute aggressive driving behavior to stress. But Dr. John Larson, director of the Institute for Stress Medicine, believes that it's more than just stress.
Larson categorizes drivers into 5 types. The speeder. The speeder believes he or she must get to a certain destination as fast as possible and becomes angry when another driver slows her pace.
Get off the road!
The answer to the speeder, who is trying to make good time, is to change that so that he emphasizes making time good.
The competitor. The competitor wants to gain status by engaging in competitive games that he makes up while driving.
Who the hell do you think you are?
Larson says the competitor becomes angry when he loses one of his self-generated competitions. The answer is to relax and don't make driving a game. The passive aggressor.
The passive aggressor is someone who is not necessarily intent on winning, but he does not want to lose.
No way am I letting you in. Dream on.
Larson says the passive aggressor needs to practice saying, "Be my guest."
You want to come in? Please come in.
The narcissist. The narcissist becomes annoyed with any driver, behavior, or highway activity that fails to measure up to his or her standards.
Come on, you idiot. Oh, great. Thank you very much. Now we gotta stop.
The best response here is to realize there's probably a good reason for the other driver's behavior. And finally, there's the vigilante. He firmly believes that he has the right to punish other drivers for their bad driving habits.
Vigilante behavior does not work. Vigilante behavior does not improve anybody's driving.
According to Dr. Larson, one way to change aggressive driving behavior is for people to become aware of these attitudes and beliefs.
Someone listening to this program is going to be more responsible after hearing the program. The more you understand, the more responsible you have to become.
So, for example, when a tense moment occurs, don't retaliate. It's much better to keep a cool head. Just say, "Be my guest." Road rage is a complex issue, and while self-awareness is not an immediate cure, it is a necessary first step in making driving a safer, more enjoyable experience.
You don't have to have gray hair to appreciate the Lincoln Town Car with the touring sedan option. At least that's the opinion that even surprised us about this large, comfortable, and surprisingly agile traditional American luxury land yacht. In the 12 months since it joined us, we've grown accustomed to the way the Town Car puts lots of miles behind our behinds with little fuss. But the touring sedan option for the Signature Series Town Car adds items like 16-inch touring tires, tauter suspension tuning with monotube shocks and thicker stabilizer bars, and a dual exhaust 220 horsepower version of Ford's smooth single-cam 4.6-liter V8. So while all town cars provide a great ride on the straight and wide, the touring sedan isn't afraid of the narrow curves. We have to say that while big fun, it's also been little trouble. In fact, with almost 18,000 miles on the Speedo, the only thing that failed was the compact disc changer. Our staff found the interior first rate, but the doors to get into it heavy and too apt to close before you're ready. Our constant complaint about the spare tire taking up too much cargo space is worth mentioning one more time, too. Still, it's a lot of car, and you can take added comfort in the fact that at 18 miles per gallon, it has better fuel economy than its town truck kin, the Lincoln Navigator. So we wrap up our long-term test of America's last rear-wheel drive luxury icon by noting that while the Town Car is not the newest car on the block, constant updates have kept it young at heart. Next week, we seek out this Mercedes-Benz ML430 Sport Ute on MotorWeek's next long-term road test update. Time now to stop in for a visit with Lisa Delaney and catch up on all the latest motor news.
With gas prices plummeting to near record lows, it would be reasonable to think that automakers would be waning in their pursuit of alternative fuel strategies. It would also be wrong. Daimler Chrysler recently unveiled the latest version of its new electric car. Based on the infamous Mercedes-Benz A-Class, the NiCar 4 uses a hydrogen-powered fuel cell to produce electricity while emitting zero emissions. This is Daimler Chrysler's sixth fuel cell vehicle in 5 years, and the company intends to invest more than $1.4 billion on fuel cell development in the next 4 to 5 years. Although still far from being practical for everyday consumer use, fuel cell technology has made tremendous progress in the last 5 years. When NiCar 1 was introduced in 1994, the fuel system weighed more than 360 pounds and took up the entire cargo area of a large van, leaving barely enough room for the driver and one passenger. Now, in NiCar 4, the complete system fits neatly under the floor of this Mercedes A-Class subcompact, and does so without intruding upon passenger space. Performance has also been greatly improved, as the NiCar 4 can attain speeds of 90 miles per hour and travel nearly 280 miles before refueling. And there's the rub. With no fueling infrastructure in place for hydrogen or more consumer-friendly methanol, Daimler Chrysler's goal of bringing fuel cell cars to market by 2004 looks overly optimistic.
I think in 2004 you'll most likely see fuel cell vehicles primarily in fleets, because we'll just be starting with the infrastructure and costs will still be relatively high, I think.
What we have to do now is to bring the costs down, to make it affordable for the customers. And I think also we will achieve that by 2004. You can bring great technology. If it's not affordable, you can forget it.
Daimler Chrysler is also researching gasoline-powered fuel cells, but don't look for them until pigs fly, or the year 2010, whichever comes first. And that's it for this week's Motor News.
One of the main reasons that full-size sport utility vehicles are so popular is the simple fact that they can haul a whole lot of just about anything and take it just about anywhere. But sometimes even the biggest sport utes, like this Chevrolet Suburban, aren't big enough. Now, those off-roaders with special needs can then turn to a small Pennsylvania-based firm called the Quigley Motor Company. They build the biggest four-wheel drive people movers that we've ever driven. Think of it as a sport utility plus. More precisely, the passenger capabilities of a full-size van, plus the off-road capabilities of a heavy-duty four-wheel drive sport ute. Customers for these unique conversion vans, dubbed the Quigley 4x4 van, range from sport fishermen to major fleet companies to the Secret Service. Every Quigley 4x4 conversion starts as a full-size van like this Chevrolet Express in either passenger or cargo configurations. Quigley workers then add either a Borg-Warner or New Venture transfer case and manual locking hubs. Also added are Dana brand axles and drive shafts, as well as springs and tie rod ends from TRW and Moog. Quigley also designs and builds some of the trickiest components in-house, including a new steering linkage. It's all fitted into a heavily modified platform that has been engineered and tested to make sure that it meets federal safety standards and can be powered by any of the engines regularly offered in the standard Express van. Our test machine came packing the Vortec 5.7-liter V8, which makes 255 horsepower and 330 pound-feet of torque. The end result is a full-figured vehicle that stands over 7 feet tall and boasts a full 9 inches of ground clearance, which makes us thankful for our test machine's optional running boards as we climb up and into the sky-high driving position. From up here, the driver enjoys a commanding view of the road that's bettered only by a tractor-trailer. The super tall stance gives the Quigley a very different feel from that of the more conventional big 4x4s like the Chevy Tahoe. But if driven in a properly cautious manner, it handles twisty roads just fine. The extra weight of the 4x4 system easily offsets the body lift, and as a result, the center of gravity is raised only 1 inch over stock. The heavily beefed up suspension will not ride like a luxury car, though the Quigley ride is no stiffer than some pickups we've driven. Not bad considering the driver's seat is placed directly over the front axle. Towing is one of the Quigley's fortes. Trailer capacity of our 2500 Express base model with the 5.7-liter V8 engine remains the factory rated 7,000 pounds. But the addition of four-wheel drive means that the Quigley will haul you up and out of a muddy construction site or up a slippery boat ramp, while standard rear-drive vans are just spinning their wheels. But it's not just towing on the road or on the job that the Quigley excels at. It's the dirt off-road that this mega sport ute was born to play in. We were at first quite skeptical about the Quigley's off-road abilities, but once we hit the dirt, the big van proved to be quite capable. GM's coil spring front suspension is replaced by Quigley's own leaf spring design, while larger 265/75 tires are mounted on 16-inch wheels. Those tires could be more aggressive, though. In the mud of our test range, they quickly clogged up, requiring our driver to use force rather than finesse to get through. When we had better traction, the hard-charging Quigley bounded over even the biggest obstacles with clearance to spare. The 3-ton Quigley requires a more straight-across approach to rough ground than smaller machines, but once you master it, there's no stopping this monster. Yes, there are plenty of sport utes that can cross the same territory with the same ease, but there's not a sport ute available that can carry up to 15 passengers, or as much as 316.8 cubic feet of cargo, if the Express van's passenger seats are removed. That's more than twice as much as even Chevy's mighty Suburban, which offers a mere 150 cubic feet. So if you've ever wondered how to get both a couch and refrigerator up to an isolated mountain cabin in just one trip, the Quigley 4x4 van is your answer. And you'll get there surrounded by the same comfort and convenience that buyers of regular Chevy Express vans enjoy. Interior changes are minimal, so the excellent standard dash layout is untouched, as are the comfortable and supportive seats. In fact, only the four-wheel drive shifter and mountaintop view betray the Quigley as something different. And different is the word for Quigley's latest creation, though if you have special towing or off-road needs, it may be exactly what you need. And if it is what you need, you simply call the Quigley Motor Company, headquartered in Manchester, Pennsylvania. They'll then refer you to a Quigley-approved Chevrolet dealer who will happily submit your order. Pricing is very straightforward. Simply choose and equip a Chevrolet Express van like our $32,367 test vehicle. Add $7,850 for the Quigley four-wheel drive system, and you have a final price of $40,217. Now, your price will naturally vary depending on what engine, trim grade, and optional equipment that you choose. But if you choose any Quigley 4x4, you will get a very unique machine, one that not every Sport Ute fan can use, but one that a select few can't live without. It's a Sport Ute and then some, a Sport Ute Plus. I hope you'll join us next week for more Motor Week. We'll test a tweaked and tuned trio from SLP and the all-new 2000 Nissan Maxima. I'm John Davis. We'll see you then.
To learn more about Motor Week, television's original automotive magazine, visit us at PBS Online at the internet address on your screen. Motor Week has been brought to you by Pep Boys. No matter what you drive, Pep Boys has over 27,000 items in stock, virtually any part for any car, with all the name brands you know, plus service bays staffed with ASE certified technicians. Pep Boys, parts, tires, accessories, service. And by Duplicolor, for your automotive paint needs, for color-matched scratch repair, for high-performance engine paint, and for specialty coatings. Since 1938, get the job done right. Duplicolor. To order a video cassette of this program, call 1-800-422-0064 or send $19.95 plus $4.95 shipping and handling to this address.
Cars, cars, and more cars. Catch the new Z, an H2 humdinger. But avoid this scene, so come drive with Motor Week next.
Motor Week, television's original automotive magazine. Brought to you by
Pep Boys. We're car people. Ah, that Motor Week.
My favorite. One great show, 30 quality minutes.
A show you can watch with your friends.
You getting excited, Mo?
There are cars involved. Of course I am.
And by
What are you looking for? eBay Motors.
your host for Motor Week, John Davis.
Well, hello and welcome again to Motor Week. We're glad to have you with us. And say hello to the 2003 Nissan 350Z and the rebirth of the legendary Z-Car. Now you can forgive us for thinking that when the 300ZX was canceled in 1996, that the Z-Car was gone for good. At that point, Z-Car stood more for luxury touring than sports car excitement. But this car draws its inspiration from the 1970 Datsun 240Z, probably the first sports car that was exhilarating to drive, easy to own, and didn't spend half its life in the repair shop. So what about the 350Z? Is the legend secure? Well, let's take a hard and fast look and see if the 2003 Nissan 350Z has what it takes to live up to the formidable reputation of the original Z car. When the 240Z arrived 32 years ago, it was styling that first drew us to it. Here was a Japanese sports car that wasn't peculiar. It was slick and more eye-catching than Europe's best. The new Z, with its 21st century aerodynamics, isn't quite the pure looker that its ancestor was, but it's still handsome if a lot more serious. Where the old Z looked slim and light, the new Z stands solid, as if to say, I can take on any road you can throw at me. And indeed, the 350Z is built for hard driving with a super stiff rear drive platform and a long 104.3-inch wheelbase. That platform is shared with the excellent Infiniti G35 and powered by the same 3.5-liter dual overhead cam V6 that in Z-Tune spurts out 287 horsepower and 274 pound-feet of torque. Those ponies gallop through either a 5-speed automatic or a 6-speed manual. Our top drawer track edition test car appropriately comes with the 6-speed. We found the shifter action to be light and crisp with just the right throw length, which when properly engaged allowed the 350Z to sprint to 60 in only 5.7 seconds. The quarter mile ran out in a quick 14.4 seconds at 99 miles per hour. It lacks some of the low-down grunt of later twin-turbo Zs, but makes up for it with a smooth delivery and robust mid-range punch. The original Z was also known for how it handled the asphalt, so where better to take our track 350Z than the challenging corners of the completely rebuilt and beautifully maintained Virginia International Raceway near Danville. All Zs come with front and rear multi-link suspension, heavy with lightweight forged aluminum components. Add to that 18-inch forged alloy wheels and brakes from Brembo, and our track model had the extra hardware needed to tackle VIR. Being the first car riders to track test the new Z, we were delighted to confirm that the new 350 follows right in the tire tracks of the original with sharp and nimble handling that belies its 3,225-pound weight. The front end will push a bit as corners tighten up, but a touch of throttle induces a gentle, predictable rear-end drift. Nissan's vehicle dynamic control, traction control, and a limited slip differential all work together to keep the Z in the groove. It's an extremely well-balanced and quite forgiving package. Not quite neutral, but darn close. Nissan mounted the engine fully behind the front axle for a near-perfect 53% front, 47% rear weight distribution. Braking was also excellent, thanks to the healthy power and feel from the fully vented disc and ABS-aided calipers. Stability in all conditions was top-notch, whether in our standard 60-mile-per-hour test, which averaged 119 feet, or from triple-digit track speeds. But whether you choose the standard, enthusiast, performance, touring, or our track model, you will find yourself in a cockpit with a sterile, all-business look. It's a far cry from the classic British sports car style of the 240Z, but it's much roomier with more efficient controls and a much wider range of amenities, including main gauges that move up and down with the adjustable steering wheel. A hidden storage space behind the passenger seat substitutes for a normal dash glove box. Open the big rear hatch and you'll find that luggage space has been compromised for the sake of body stiffness and handling. A thick strut bar makes for a tight 6.8 cubic feet of cargo space. Pricing for the 2003 Nissan 350Z starts at a bargain $26,809 for the very well-equipped standard model, and tops out at $34,619 for our track model, with 5 more variations in between. In other words, a Z for every taste. With the arrival of the new 350Z, Nissan's legendary Z car has gone back to its roots with a vengeance. The legend is not only secure, it's accessible, affordable, and more exciting than ever before. And that's Z-Truth. Do anti-lock brakes always reduce your stopping distance in emergency situations? A new government study concludes that except on loose surfaces like sand and snow, all panic stops can be shorter with four-wheel anti-lock brakes than without. Shorter on wet pavement and shorter on dry pavement. Remember, ABS works best when you stomp the brake pedal, stay on the brake pedal, and steer where you want to go. Coming up, revealing the secrets of a crash. Time now for Motor Week's top tech, Pat Goss, and more of his legendary car care advice.
John, keeping a nice car nice can be a real challenge these days. What with air pollution and acid rain and bird droppings and dust and dirt. Well, one of the things you might want to consider is a car cover. There are a lot of ways to buy car covers. You could go down to the local chain store and buy a one-size-fits-all, or maybe one-size-fits-nothing, and you could probably do some damage to your paint. You see, a good car cover is going to be designed for a specific purpose. You have to know whether you're going to keep the car outside or inside. Are you simply trying to protect it against dust or dirt or whatever it might be? And there are different products for all of these different circumstances, starting from a product up here that's made out of a paper-like material that actually breathes. It lets condensation come out through the cover, yet it keeps dust and dirt out. And there are various types. Some of them are multi-layered and so on, and they all serve a specific purpose, and in many cases, they will meet a specific price point. One of the things that you want to look for when you're looking for your car cover, right here. You know, car covers have plastic grommets in them so that you can tie them to the car so that somebody else doesn't steal it from you. Well, on cheap car covers, the plastic grommet, the inside of it, isn't covered. So the plastic can actually rub against the paint on your car and do damage. On better ones, they're built into this pocket that protects them so they won't do any damage to your car. That's something to look for. You also look for the type of stitching on the cover itself. There are various types. Okay, now, you want to keep the car cover on your car. Don't rely on a string. Make sure you use a cable tie. Very difficult to get through, and it'll keep the thieves away. All right, now, on the car itself, you need to know some things about it. When you order your cover, like for this older Corvette, you have to know whether it has one mirror or two. Does it have a fixed antenna or not? If it has a fixed antenna, then you have to order an antenna pocket. By doing your homework, spending a few more dollars, you'll get a car cover that will actually protect your car and not damage it. If you have a question or comment, write to me. The address is Motor Week, Owings Mills, Maryland, 21117.
Sold! Hi, I'm Craig Singhas with collector car expert John Appen, and today on the auction block we've got a 1966 Ford Thunderbird. John, these birds are getting more and more popular, aren't they?
Oh yes, the first generation two-seater birds, the 55 through 57s, have always been collectible. Then came the square birds, finally the bullet birds, and now the 66s. They're coming into their own as collectibles.
And this one's got a lot of desirable options.
Craig, what makes this 66 a potential collectible is a resale red paint, but more importantly, the dealer-installed roadster tonneau top that turns it back into a two-seat roadster just like the first generation T-Bird. Other options include the attractive Kelsey Hayes wire wheels, the Continental kit, a reclining passenger seat with an adjustable headrest, and a factory-installed 8-track.
John, what's a bird like this worth?
Well, fully restored, maybe 15 to 25. Optioned out like this car is could be anywhere from $30,000 to $35,000.
Sold!
With U.S. roadways becoming more and more congested, auto manufacturers are devoting more and more resources to active and passive safety. But no matter how well equipped your car is with the latest safety advances, some accidents just can't be avoided. Or can they? This week, FYI reporter Jennifer Kaznavas looks at a research program that tackles that question head on.
Mary Beth Billing left 20 minutes early for work on May 23, 2002, so she could finish up some paperwork before Memorial Day weekend. What she didn't know was in that 20 minutes, another driver more concerned about her pet bird than the road was heading down the same road in the opposite direction.
And the road's kind of windy, and as I was going into the first wind, or the first curve, all of a sudden this car shot across from their lane to my lane, and we hit head on.
Mary Beth, along with the other woman, was taken to shock trauma. The other woman managed to escape with minor injuries. Mary Beth Billing did not get off so easily.
6 pins sticking out of my foot. I have more pins inside of it and what they call J-bars, and then I have a full bar going through my foot. Well, not only did I dislocate my foot, I decided to go one step farther, they tell me, and I degloved my heel. And what that means is I tore off my heel.
So what could have been done to minimize Mary Beth Billing's injuries? Could the car have been designed differently to help reduce or even eliminate this kind of trauma? Well, the National Siren Program not only asks those same questions, they try to come up with some answers.
Why would they build in a ride-down feature as part of their safety package?
Siren, or the Crash Injury Research and Engineering Network, is an organization comprised of physicians, members of the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, police, and other officials. These individuals get together throughout the year to discuss specific accidents, the injuries the victims sustain, and how they could be prevented in the future. Currently, there are 10 facilities in the United States which participate. The University of Maryland Medical Center is one of them. Dr. Andrew Burgess is head of the group.
You can't make big changes in the industry based on a single event at a certain angle of impact, at a certain speed, with a patient of a certain size, restrained or unrestrained, and then make policy. But going into depth of how the crash occurred, what contact points within the vehicle the patient struck, you can get a lot of insight and sort of drive bigger picture issues.
During Mary Beth Billings' case review, pictures of the mangled car gave investigators a chance to compare her injuries with specific damage.
This is her foot screwed together. So my partners have gotten the parts where they belong.
The group not only analyzed the physical aspects, they also discussed her emotional state and daily challenges.
Well, I think a little bit of what I bring to it is sort of the human dimension of what happens in the crash to the person, and kind of bring that out and bring that alive, if you will, that we, because we're saving more people today, it's really important to find out, are they able to get back, to pre-injury levels of work, school, whatever, and what their life situation is like.
If you want to look at what really happens in the real world, you have to have a program like Siren, where we have, crash investigations of real crashes, and we have evaluations of the injuries that are produced and the long-term outcome as well.
As Mary Beth Billing remains on the road to recovery, the Siren Group will evaluate her progress and continue to utilize the information. After the information is gathered, NHTSA, being the liaison, relates all the findings to the auto manufacturers, so they too can understand what might improve safety with their cars. Mary Beth Billing is more than happy she's part of this program, hoping that her unfortunate incident will help prevent someone else from a lifetime of suffering.
What a dilemma. So many new car keys, so little time. So what are we waiting for? If it is possible for imperfect human beings to build a perfect car, the 2003 Mercedes-Benz SL55 AMG is the most worthy candidate we've ever seen. To support our case, we offer this evidence. The SL55 offers timeless styling that blends elements from its historic past into a look that will be equally desirable in the future. Power comes from a hand-built 5.5-liter supercharged V8 that produces a stunning 493 horsepower. Built for a blast to 60 in just 4.5 seconds, this is the fastest production Mercedes ever built. Yet this potent power plant qualifies the SL55 AMG as a low-emissions vehicle and is capable of delivering over 20 miles per gallon on the highway. And when it comes to ride and handling, the SL55 is a technological tour de force that features active body control, stability control, and race car-derived ABS brakes with the auto industry's first brake-by-wire electronic braking system. And then there's the luxurious leather-lined cockpit that offers more amenities than we have time to mention. But take our word for it, once you're belted in, you won't want to get out.
When I first picked up the SL55 AMG at the press event in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, I fully intended to take a couple days to make my way back to Maryland. But once I started driving, I couldn't stop. 16 hours later, I pulled into my driveway feeling like I could go for another 3 or 4 hours. I can't think of any other car that offers such an intoxicating blend of performance and luxury.
The 2003 Mercedes-Benz SL55 AMG carries a pretty intoxicating price too, but when compared to other cars in its class at $113,250, it's actually a bargain. Now, if you're looking for something that's extreme in another sense of the word, the 2003 Honda Element is a boxy little SUV designed for the extreme buyer, literally. Honda hopes young males that favor more extreme sports like surfing and mountain biking will flock to the Element as a vehicle designed to allow them to easily enjoy their hobbies. That means the Element is more about how much it can carry than how it carries it. And for a vehicle that's shorter but wider and taller than the CR-V on which it's based, the Element can carry a lot. The 4 side doors open clamshell style, and there's no B-pillar to get in the way. The cavernous interior has a totally flat vinyl-covered floor and water-resistant seat fabrics. Seats can be configured for everything from beds to bikes to longboards. Driving the Element is more like riding on a train than motoring. Not that the Element isn't very drivable. Even though Honda makes no pretense about handling, the Element is quite confident if stiff. The drivetrain includes the 160 horsepower 2.4-liter four-cylinder used in the revamp Accord with manual and automatic transmissions in front or all-wheel drive. Power is adequate given a 3,400-pound curb weight, but fuel economy is a step down from the CR-V. Then there's the Element's exterior. With lots of dent-resistant body panels, it's an odd-looking duck in any pond. But this flexible box does grow on you, especially with a modest price tag of $16,000 to $21,000. When Honda first floated this concept with the Model X show car, most said it was too extreme and that they would never be crazy enough to build it. Well, they did. And something tells us that with the 2003 Element, Honda is once again crazy like a fox. Okay, not looking for a car or SUV that can be described with words like crazy or extreme, but one that still delivers a high quotient of driving pleasure? Then take a look at the latest product of Infiniti's ongoing performance revival, the all-new 2003 M45. While the angular look is not consistent with the latest Infiniti animalistic styling, the grille is large, bold, and in your face, with character lines that deliver a very rigid stance.
The big news with the M45 is the engine. 340 horsepower and a mid-size sedan is a lot, any way you look at it. It's got over 330 pound-feet of torque, and the chassis can handle it too. It's just a solid-feeling, fast car.
Fast thanks to the same 4.5-liter V8 found in the larger Q45. In fact, both cars are based on the same chassis right down to the all-independent suspension with front coils over struts and multi-links in the rear. So through corners, the M45 is virtually flat with a very responsive feel and never floaty like the Q45. Familiarity continues inside with many more bits coming directly out of the Q45. And M45 prices start at around $42,000. See anything you like? Well, we thought you would. But if not, don't worry. There's plenty more new car keys where these came from. It was 1992 that AM General rolled the first civilian version of the Army's Humvee special purpose vehicle off an Indiana assembly line and officially dubbed it the Hummer. Well, the Hummer quickly developed a cult following with celebrities and off-road fanatics, and it achieved such celebrity status itself that in 1999, GM bought the Hummer brand and announced their intentions to build a more family-friendly Hummer, the H2. Well, the H2 has arrived, but the question is the son of Hummer as tough as Daddy? To answer that question, first we have to set some parameters for toughness. For instance, unlike the military Humvee its appearance favors, the new 2003 Hummer H2 is not available with armor plate or machine gun mounts. But when it comes to taking on nature's worst, Hummer engineers claim the new H2, which is actually based on GM's full-size truck chassis, can handle 80% of the abuse of the original H1. And with 10 inches of ground clearance, a wide and stable 69.4-inch track, and a rugged full-time four-wheel drive system with 5 operating modes, we don't doubt them one bit. That 4x4 unit is a Borg-Warner 2-speed electronically controlled full-time transfer case with a 40% front, 60% rear torque split when running in 4 high open range. When in 4 high locked or 4 low locked modes, the Hummer H2 standard electronic traction control system can be recalibrated to allow for more wheel spin by engaging the TC2 switch. The standard ABS 4-wheel disc brakes have also been engineered with the Hummer's penchant for extreme conditions in mind. Separate logic control schemes are used so the ABS system can discern and react to varying road conditions. At our more benign test track, the Hummer H2 was reined in from 60 and an average of 150 feet. Stability is excellent, but after several runs, brake fade was quite noticeable. While the H1 sees diesel duty, the new Hummer H2 is powered by GM's Vortex 6000 6-liter gas V8. Output is 316 horsepower and 360 pound-feet of torque. The Vortec is mated to a manly heavy-duty 4-speed electronic transmission. This stout combination gives the H2 a 7,000-pound trailer tow capacity. At the track, however, we weren't too optimistic about the H2's acceleration prowess. But this 6,400-pound brute surprised us with a fairly strong run to 60 in 9.7 seconds and a sprint through the quarter-mile trap in 17.3 seconds with a speed of 81 miles per hour. Another surprise was the H2's highway ride. In terms of comfort, it's right on par with the GMC Yukon Denali. Absorbing all the nasty stuff so you don't have to is an independent front torsion bar suspension with 46mm monotube gas shocks and a 36mm tubular stabilizer bar. In the rear, our tester came with the standard rigid axle 5-link coil spring setup that features dual-stage variable rate coil springs, 46mm gas shocks, and a 30mm stabilizer bar. Order up the optional off-road suspension package and you get a self-leveling air spring suspension. A trip through our low-speed slalom delivered predictable results from a heavy 79.2-inch tall sport ute shod with massive 315/70 series tires on 17-inch rims. It ain't light on its feet, but steering feel from the variable ratio recirculating ball steering unit is light and progressive with a good deal of feedback. And a good deal of positive feedback was accorded the Hummer H2's surprisingly plush, trendy, and quiet interior from our staff. Our tester's 8-way power seats came clothed in optional leather with heat. The driver faces a leather-wrapped tilt wheel with satellite audio controls that front a full set of bright overlapping gauges. The H2's center stack houses a selection of Bose audio systems. Ours came with a 6-disc in-dash CD changer, and there's dual-zone climate controls. Rear passengers also get heated seats, but legroom is tight for a vehicle with a generous 122.8-inch wheelbase. Optional is a single folding third-row seat right next to a full-size spare tire. With third seat removed and second row folded, there is a generous 86.6 cubic feet of cargo space. But for many, the H2 will be more about posing than payload. And for the H2's targeted audience, price won't be an issue either. Base sticker on the 2003 Hummer H2 is $48,800. With the chrome appearance package, our tester rang up to $52,870. That's about the same as a modestly equipped Lincoln Navigator or Toyota Land Cruiser. So to answer our original question, is the new Hummer H2 as tough as Daddy? Well, we think darn close. And it certainly looks like family. In fact, most casual observers can't tell the difference. And it's way more comfortable and versatile than the original. So when it's all said and done, we can safely say the 2003 Hummer H2 is a great new chip off the old block. I hope you'll join us next week for more Motor Week, when we'll get down and dirty with Toyota's all-new 4Runner and saddle up Ford's hottest pony yet, the Mustang SVT Cobra. I'm John Davis. We'll see you then.
To learn more about Motor Week, television's original automotive magazine, visit PBS online at pbs.org or America Online, keyword PBS. To order a video cassette of this program, call 1-800-223-3678, extension 1685. Motor Week has been brought to you by
Pep Boys, we're car people.
Oh, it's over.
That's entertainment.
That's better than the smell of new tires. I gotta agree. Same time next week?
You got it.
And by
What are you looking for? eBay Motors.
This time on Motor Week, Subaru goes SUV, Acura rolls out the Rockets, and Lisa Barrow investigates road rage. So come drive with us next.
Motor Week, television's original automotive magazine. Your host for Motor Week, John Davis.
Well, hello and welcome again to Motor Week. We're glad to have you with us. Subaru has long been a leader in affordable all-wheel drive, making its benefits available on coupe, sedans, and station wagons alike. But in a world where nothing but a pure sport utility vehicle will do, they've had to make do with small wagons on steroids like this Outback Sport. That is, until now. Say hello to the new Subaru Forester SUV. Like all Subarus, it's not quite like anything else on the market. But then, if it was, it wouldn't be a Subaru. And the new Forester sport utility vehicle is pure Subaru, though its angular military styling is a far cry from the sleek sedans and wagons that Subaru has produced for the last few years. And Forester appears more serious than its RAV4 and CR-V rivals. Built on a modified version of the compact Impreza platform, the all-wheel drive Forester is longer than the Impreza, but shorter than the Legacy. Its kinship to the Outback line is obvious in the deep front spoiler with large fog lamps and rut-worthy 7.5 inches of ground clearance. Though the mild tread pattern of these 16-inch raised white ladder tires is more suited for all weather than all terrain. Inside the Forester's roomy cabin that's narrower but taller than the Legacy Outbacks, everything is straightforward and logical. The dash will look familiar to any Japanese car owner, a place for everything and everything in its place. Optional wood grain trim is available for those who don't like the usual plastic. The front seats are well padded and supportive. Cloth coverings are standard and leather optional. The dash houses a set of large analog gauges, as well as no-nonsense switch clusters for ventilation and stereo. Other available features include this compass and information center, dual electric power points, and heated seats. While the rear seats offer so much headroom that we can almost forgive the shoebox styling. Cargo space also gains from the tall roof. It's 33.2 cubic feet with the rear seat up, over 64 cubic feet with the seat folded. We like the handy cargo tie-down points, but not the flimsy storage pocket lids, which Subaru promises will be better quality on production machines. Up at the sharper end, the flat hood covers the Legacy Outback's bulletproof 2.5-liter 16-valve flat 4. It makes 165 horsepower and 162 pound-feet of torque, which feeds through a 5-speed manual for the base model or a choice of manual or 4-speed automatic transmission for the L and S grade. And into Subaru's reliable all-wheel drive system that puts most of the power to the front wheels until it's needed elsewhere. It all hauled our 3,120-pound automatic-equipped Forester to 60 in 8.8 seconds. The quarter mile was dispatched in 16.8 seconds at 81 miles per hour. And while marginally quicker than the Legacy Outback, our Forester lacks some of that car's smoothness under hard acceleration. Handling was very similar to that of the Outback, but then it should be, since the Forester shares the same McPherson strut suspension. The feel is pure family car, with predictable body roll from the Forester's softer springs, yet less of the traditional SUV top-heavy feel. While the variable speed power steering was very quick, giving it a more nimble feel than a Blazer or Explorer. Braking, however, matched that of most SUVs. 123 feet from 60 was the average for our S-grade test car, with four-wheel disc and standard ABS. Base and L-grade models use drums in the rear instead of disc, though the L also features an anti-lock system as standard. Daily road work showed the Forester to be quiet and comfortable and easy to drive. The ride is smoother than that of its Outback cousins and most truck-based sport utilities. The same applies off-road, where the Forester easily soaks up the bumps and low traction of unpaved trails. The truck-like high ground clearance is a big plus for moderately rough terrain as long as it's dry. Muddy conditions will tax the street-friendly tires. But then, with all its obvious car-like cues, the Forester isn't just another truck playing at being a station wagon. It's a true suburban sport utility vehicle for people that were never going to tackle serious off-roading in the first place. And for that, it's just right. Automobile Magazine said that the Forester seems perfectly placed in the market, the result of a sound concept followed by brilliant execution. And if our expectations for the not yet announced price are correct, it should be affordable as well. Forester prices should start at just under $20,000 for a base model. Expect a fully loaded S-grade machine to top out at about $25,000. Civilized machines like the Subaru Forester could very well be the future of sport utility vehicles. Useful yet comfortable, rugged yet friendly, and in this case, very much an original. In other words, a Subaru.
You know, owning a car can be a lot of fun, but only if it's properly maintained. And nobody knows how to keep a car in tip-top shape better than MotorWeek's top tech, Pat Goss.
Big sport utilities like this Chevrolet Suburban, John, are becoming very, very popular. They have go-anywhere dependability, and they can carry more cargo than any minivan ever could. But if you have a family, they certainly do have some drawbacks, too. One of the things is getting children into them, and that's where we installed these Smittybilt Sure Steps. Once we had the family inside the vehicle, we wanted to make it more pleasant to ride in. So we started out with a set of Boyd's billet aluminum wheels, and on them we mounted a set of BF Goodrich sport truck tires. Now this gave us the advantage of better steering and a much better ride, but still, well, there was a little bit of a bounce to the vehicle, so the next thing was a set of Bilstein shock absorbers. Well, that all combined to make it, well, almost like a passenger car. Tremendous improvements. Well, the next thing was that we wanted better nighttime visibility. Back roads and so on, a lot of hazards. Well, we put a Smittybilt brush guard on it, which gave us the ability to mount these Hella driving lights. Now, this made a tremendous improvement in nighttime visibility. Helps avoid all those hazards out there. Now, here's a little change of pace. On this Dodge Ram, we installed this TJM Bull Bar. Now, this is a very impressive looking unit. It's made of aluminum and steel. And it's already set up to mount driving lights on it, protects the front of the vehicle, and it has the ability to have a winch mounted right into it. There's a kit so you can put it in there, and it does a very effective job. And it looks good. Because these vehicles are used for more than just hauling people around, we decided to take our conversion a little bit further. See, mulch and firewood and all of the other things that you cart in the back of one of them tends to make a mess of them. So we explored things like the Hardliner. This is made out of hard plastic and has this tailgate so that it makes it easy to load and unload, yet it keeps things in place. Well, we also wanted to look into protection for the floors in the front and other types of protection for the back, so we looked at things like these Husky liners and weather guards. There are many of these on the market. You simply pick the one that has the features that you want and a color, of course, to match your vehicle. Now, if you have a question or a comment about an automobile, write to me. If I select your letter to use on the air, I'll send you a MotorWeek t-shirt. The address is MotorWeek, Owings Mills, Maryland, 21117.
Our car of the week is a factory prototype 1967 AMC Rebel 770 drag racer. It belongs to James Sweet of Lapeer, Michigan. If you have a car with an interesting history, submit at least 2 good color photos to MotorWeek, Owings Mills, Maryland, 21117.
Over the years, FYI reporter Lisa Barrow has kept us up to date on critical automotive issues like child safety, crash testing, and auto security. This week, she clues us in on yet another timely topic, one that affects everyone who gets behind the wheel.
You see them every day.
Learn to drive!
Speeders, tailgaters, stupid drivers, aggressive drivers.
Stupid! Come on!
But just what is it that drives these people? And are you one of them?
The AAA Foundation for Traffic Safety recently sponsored a study on aggressive driving. They looked at over 10,000 incidents between January of 1990 and August of 1996, and they found some interesting results.
We were looking for relationships between aggressive driving and congestion, for example. There doesn't seem to be much of one. You find it in completely uncongested areas of the country. You find it in rural areas, in urban areas, in small towns, in large cities. It's happening all over the country.
According to the study, the typical aggressive driver is male between the ages of 18 and 26.
But we shouldn't be lulled into believing that it's just young men who are the problem, that there are incidents of aggressive driver involving people up into their 70s, men and women.
Many experts attribute aggressive driving behavior to stress. But Dr. John Larson, director of the Institute for Stress Medicine, believes that it's more than just stress.
Larson categorizes drivers into 5 types. The speeder. The speeder believes he or she must get to a certain destination as fast as possible and becomes angry when another driver slows her pace.
Get off the road!
The answer to the speeder, who is trying to make good time, is to change that so that he emphasizes making time good.
The competitor. The competitor wants to gain status by engaging in competitive games that he makes up while driving.
Who the hell do you think you are?
Larson says the competitor becomes angry when he loses one of his self-generated competitions. The answer is to relax and don't make driving a game. The passive aggressor.
The passive aggressor is someone who is not necessarily intent on winning, but he does not want to lose.
No way am I letting you in. Ha! Dream on.
Larson says the passive aggressor needs to practice saying, "Be my guest."
You want to come in? Please come in.
The narcissist. The narcissist becomes annoyed with any driver, behavior, or highway activity that fails to measure up to his or her standards.
Come on, you idiot. Oh, great. Thank you very much. Now we gotta stop.
The best response here is to realize there's probably a good reason for the other driver's behavior. And finally, there's the vigilante. He firmly believes that he has the right to punish other drivers for their bad driving habits.
Vigilante behavior does not work. Vigilante behavior does not improve anybody's driving.
According to Dr. Larson, one way to change aggressive driving behavior is for people to become aware of these attitudes and beliefs.
Someone listening to this program is going to be more responsible after hearing the program. The more you understand, the more responsible you have to become.
So, for example, when a tense moment occurs, don't retaliate. It's much better to keep a cool head. Just say, "Be my guest." Road rage is a complex issue, and while self-awareness is not an immediate cure, it is a necessary first step in making driving a safer, more enjoyable experience.
For a more in-depth look at the attitudes that can lead to road rage, check out Steering Clear of Highway Madness. Dr. John A. Larson offers practical, down-to-earth ideas on what may be causing you to get angry on the road. He also offers practical advice on how to curb your anger and frustration and restore pleasure to driving. Larson's book is a must-read for anyone concerned about the causes and consequences of overly aggressive driving. Now from road rage to the latest changes in the automotive industry, here again is Lisa Barrow, this time with all the latest motor news.
Oldsmobile makes news this week as we spy on 2 future models from America's oldest car maker. We got our first glimpse of the Oldsmobile Alero concept car at the Detroit Auto Show. These spy photos hint that the production car shares much of the overall shape of the show car, with an aggressive interpretation of the Aurora styling, both front and rear. The Alero replaces the Achieva, and judging by these photos, will offer a more modern look than its predecessor, with a fastback roofline, large headlights, and low hood profile. The Alero will share its updated chassis and drivetrain with the Pontiac Grand Am. Look for the Alero to be introduced late this fall. In the fall of 1999, Olds will introduce the Anthem, which will replace the venerable 88. Styling favors the Aurora and Intrigue, but is more conservative with a short front overhang and a flatter hood. The Anthem is likely to share structure and some components with the 1998 Cadillac Seville. Expect both the front-drive Alero and Anthem to be offered with V6 powertrains. And that's it for this week's Motor News.
Hello, I'm Craig Singhas, and this week's Roadside America takes us to one of my favorite places, Watkins Glen, New York, and the Glen Vintage Automotive Museum. The museum is located on Main Street in Watkins Glen, the very streets that saw the birth of road racing in America. A lovely collection of sports and racing cars from the immediate post-war era, the cars and accompanying historical films take the visitor back to the golden age of sports car racing.
To most drivers, the name Acura is synonymous with luxury. But to enthusiasts, that brand also stands for speed. And the swiftest members of today's Acura team are the new Type R version of the entry-level Integra and Acura's flagship supercar, the NSX. Together, they cover both ends of the high-performance car spectrum and offer something for everyone who has the need for speed. And rarely have there been two more speed-oriented machines at a single brand. Following the already speedy GSR, the limited edition 97 Type R is the most single-minded Integra yet. From the heavily tweaked aerodynamics of its available only in champion white body to the reinforced chassis that's been stripped of most sound insulation, as well as features like a sunroof and rear wipers, all to save weight, to a completely revamped 1.8-liter four-cylinder VTEC engine that now produces 195 horses and 130 pound-feet of torque. And it spins up quickly to an 8,400 RPM redline, making the Type R the most rev-happy performer we've driven in years. All that fury is funneled through a close ratio 5-speed manual transmission. Forget about an automatic. And it hugs the pavement thanks to a beefed-up sport suspension with larger brakes, as well as 15-inch aluminum wheels wearing super sticky Bridgestone tires. In raw numbers, this means 10% faster 0 to 60 sprints of 7 seconds flat and quarter-mile runs of 15.5 seconds at 91 miles per hour. Power builds progressively, given the Type R's impressive top-end punch. The excellent shifter and clutch keep the engine in the meat of the power band. It works superbly in the corners of West Virginia's Summit Point Raceway. After just a few hot laps, our drivers reported that the Type R was fast, flat, and forgiving. By that we mean plenty of usable power, strong brakes, minimum body roll, and predictable stick-to-the-road-like spit handling. And yes, street driving was almost as much fun. Despite a sometimes bouncy ride, the Type R had a tossable, entertaining feel that our staff loved. Even the interior got high marks, thanks to its stylish red-on-black upholstery. It's roomy and, despite the diet, well-equipped, though air conditioning is an option. We do, however, miss the sound insulation. At 71 decibels on the highway, the Type R borders on loud. But despite all the trick go-fast features, the Type R won't be that expensive. The 500 cars imported this year will carry a base price of about $24,000. A lot of bang for the buck and serious fun for the boy racer in all of us. Now, the Type R's big brother, the Acura NSX-T supercar, has received less dramatic changes. The most significant is a larger 3.2-liter V6 engine for the manual transmission model. It makes 20 more horsepower for a total of 290. Torque is up 2 to 224 pound-feet, while the manual transmission itself is an all-new 6-speed. This new combination drove the NSX to 60 in 5.2 seconds, a half-second faster than before, and down the full quarter mile in 13.6 seconds at 105 miles per hour, and made the Summit Point course more fun than a roller coaster. The engine's increased torque punched it out of corners harder than last year's car, while the 97 NSX's bigger brakes allowed us to drive in deeper and faster than ever before. More power, however, does make the car prone to oversteer, so while it remains a superbly balanced machine, a more careful right foot is required. Exterior changes are minimal for 97, consisting of a new front spoiler and new aluminum alloys for stronger body panels. The interior is also basically unchanged, which is fine by us. But one change that we never like to see is a higher price.
The NSXT's base price has now risen to $88,000, which makes its little brother, the Integra Type R, look even more appealing. But whichever price range you shop in, Acura now has a serious performance car for you, one that's guaranteed to satisfy your need for speed. Lisa Barrow and Craig Singhas are MotorWeek's king and queen of travel. Why they crisscross the country seeking out interesting people, places, and events, which sometimes makes those of us that have to stay in the office just a little bit jealous. Fortunately, they both like to share their adventures, so let's join Lisa this week as she explores the sights, sounds, and wonders of roadside America.
Dear John, Southern Louisiana is great. So much has been going on, you just wouldn't believe it. Let me see if I can explain. On the way to Cajun country, I stopped off in White Castle, just south of Baton Rouge, where I spent the night at the Nottoway Plantation. This is the largest plantation home in the South, and I couldn't pass up an opportunity to see such an incredible home. Plus, I got my first taste of authentic Cajun cuisine at the Nottoway restaurant. Chef Johnny Jambalaya shared some insights into Cajun culture and the secrets of how to eat Cajun food.
Where's the fun?
I like that idea.
Oh, yeah. That's what God gave us fingers for. The things that absolutely bind us together as a culture is our food and music. Family values that you hear so much about are really prevalent here. It's a basic loyalty everyone has to each other, especially family. It's something that grabs a hold to you and never lets go.
Aside from gaining some weight on this trip, I came away with a real sense of the pride Cajuns have for their heritage and their community. About 150 miles northwest of New Orleans is the little town of Eunice, considered the heart of Cajun country. Here you'll still find people speaking a 17th century version of French, which sounds about as dated as Shakespearean English. You'll definitely hear plenty of great music. And if you're like me, you may even wind up dancing with the mayor of Eunice. Many of today's Cajuns are descendants of French colonists who were exiled from Canada by the British. These Acadians fled to what was then the French colony of Louisiana back in the 1760s. Today, still living on the soil of their exiled ancestors, they are known as Cajuns.
Today's Cajuns are living a revival, a rebirth of interest and a rebirth of pride in themselves.
Folklorist Barry Ancelet keeps this pride alive and kicking when he hosts Rendezvous des Cajuns, a weekly TV and radio show broadcast live from the Liberty Theater in Eunice.
Le Rendezvous des Cajuns, c'est le bon temps roulé. SJ!
Come prepared to dance because the music is infectious and the audience loves it. This love of their music and heritage seems to be shared by Cajun children, parents, and grandparents alike.
Young kids in South Louisiana still have a very strong opportunity to learn things from their grandparents because they're with them a lot. Family values are extremely important in Cajun culture. Family is of utmost importance.
And when we arrived in Eunice, it felt like we were part of the family too, thanks to Liz and Paul Potier, who run the Prairie Cajun Inn. They made us feel right at home, and their inn is absolutely charming. It was our favorite lodging for the entire trip. Our favorite place to see music was just down the road at Mark and Ann Savoy's. They hold an open jam session every Saturday morning that's a real treat. A highlight of any trip to Cajun country is a swamp tour, and that's where we were headed next. To the tiny town of Kramer, about 100 miles southeast of Eunice. Getting around southern Louisiana is easy. The roads are clearly marked, but be sure your car is well air-conditioned because it does get pretty hot. We found our Buick Riviera to be a fine choice for this sort of leisurely drive. And we found Zam's swamp tour to be a lot of fun.
Slick, what sort of things are we going to see along the river?
Well, we'll get to see a lot of alligators there. We may see snakes. We'll see blue, white herons, snowy egrets, night herons, you know, many different animals. You'll see a lot of fish jumping in and out the bayou. And, you know, you see the works.
Oh, that is gorgeous.
It's pretty peaceful back here. The deeper you go, the less you hear. And it gets to a certain point, when you get way back there in the swamps, you don't hear nothing. It's just so peaceful back here. The community, we all family and all this.
That's pretty much what I found wherever I went, the sense of community and the sense of family. This visit to Cajun country has been wonderful. The good food, all the music and the dancing. Like the song says, oh mio mio, life is fun on the bayou.
I hope you'll join us next week for more Motor Week. We'll test Chrysler's retro roadster, the Plymouth Prowler, and Lincoln's more muscular Mark 8, the LSC. Lisa Barrow brings us memories of Matchbox, while Pat Goss answers slippery questions about motor oil. Plus, we'll have all the latest motor news. I'm John Davis. We'll see you then.
To order a video cassette of this program, call 1-800-422-0064 or send $19.95 plus $4.95 shipping and handling to Motor Week, Post Office Box 55742, Indianapolis, Indiana 46205.
This time on Motor Week, pony cars go head-to-head, the ultimate off-roader, and a soothing Sonata by Hyundai. So come drive with us next.
Motor Week, television's original automotive magazine. Brought to you by Castrol Super Clean All-Wheel Cleaner. The cleaner that releases brake dust and road grime from all types of wheels on contact, no matter what age your car. Castrol Super Clean All-Wheel Cleaner. And by Michelin, makers of the Zero Pressure Michelin. Designed to let you drive up to 50 miles at 55 miles per hour without air pressure. Just what you expect from Michelin. Your host for Motor Week, John Davis.
Well, hello and welcome again to Motor Week. We're glad to have you with us. Ask any car fan, what's the most famous rivalry in American automobiles? And they're bound to say the Ford Mustang against the Chevrolet Camaro. These two pony car titans have been duking it out for decades. Their battlefield stretches from Main Street America to the fastest racetracks, and both have racked up some pretty impressive victories over the years. But so intense is the competition that neither has held the top spot for very long. And with General Motors thinking about canceling the Camaro due to slow sales, we decided to pit the newest, hottest versions of these pony cars against each other for what could be a final bout.
Ladies and gentlemen, race fans of all ages, welcome to our main event. From the twists and turns of Rolling Road Raceway in historic Savannah, Georgia, may I present our competitors. Fighting for the Ford Special Vehicle Team out of Dearborn, Michigan, and wearing the chrome yellow paint scheme, it's the 1998 Mustang Cobra. Across the track, painted a glowing bright red, and hailing from Warren, Michigan, please welcome the 1998 Chevrolet Camaro Z28 SS.
And as the bell rings, the Ford Mustang Cobra jumps out to an early lead in the acceleration round. The Ford launches cleanly and never looks back as the Camaro Z28 SS fights to hook up. Nailing second gear, the Mustang holds a slight advantage as it punches through 60 miles per hour in only 5.4 seconds. The Chevrolet Camaro is close behind at only 5.7 seconds and closes the gap as we near the quarter-mile post. But at the line, it's still the Mustang by a jab, posting a 13.7-second time at 104 miles per hour. The Camaro was actually faster at 106 miles per hour, but not as quick, managing a 13.8-second run. The tail of the tape shows the different approaches of these two welterweights. The Camaro weighs in over 200 pounds heavier. It's also lower, wider, and longer by a good margin. The Mustang engine is a modern twin-cam 4.6-liter unit with 32 valves. Pumped up with 305 horsepower and 300 pound-feet of torque, it pulls hard in the mid-range and revs willingly to 7,000 RPM. The Camaro's 5.7-liter LS1 pushrod V8 packs knockout power too, with 320 horses to go with its whopping 345 pound-feet of torque. The Corvette-derived 8 has great off-the-line punch and more pull exiting corners. And it was in the corner where the Chevy showed its fancy footwork. Tight spring rates, larger shocks and front stabilizer bar kept our nimble SS off the ropes and on the proper line. Throttle response was excellent, making for easy power-on oversteer. The rear is kept in check via electronic traction control in most situations, but was turned off for the track. The SS Performance ride and handling package is well trained for this type of driving and was delightful at every turn. The Mustang's Fox-based chassis is, on the other hand, tuned for less demanding road work and was a bit overmatched on this track. Lap time showed a nearly 2-second advantage for the Camaro. Understeer is the safest weapon on a road course, one the Mustang Cobra uses liberally on each lap. Power response was not as immediate, and the lower torque figures made coaxing the tail out more difficult than with the Camaro. Still, we actually found the Ford easier to drive at the limit. Hampered by narrower 45 series tires and more body roll, the Mustang gave us plenty of warning that it was time to back off. The more purposeful Camaro setup was less forgiving. In our contest, points are given for style, but it's still a tough call. The Mustang Cobra comes across as the quintessential boulevard cruiser with a sporty upright stance that appeals to a wide variety of tastes. Power bulges and air scoops are present but subdued. The design is less cutting edge than the Camaro, but still attractive in its own way. Inside, the Mustang pleases its fans with comfortable leather buckets and a clear, straightforward layout for all gauges and controls. As expected, the Mustang Cobra is a more tolerable street cruiser than the Camaro. The ride is compliant without being soft, and the muted exhaust rumble never gets overbearing. Base price for the 1998 Ford Mustang Cobra stands at $25,710. As leather is standard on the coupe, our car's rear wing is the only significant option, bringing the as-tested sticker to $26,430 with destination charge. The Chevy Camaro Z28 appeals to a younger, more hardcore crowd with its sleek look-at-me styling. But subtle reshaping of the hood line, lights, and front face shift for 98 have matured the look somewhat. The SS package adds a unique rear spoiler, functional hood scoop, and raspy 3-inch exhaust tips, as well as 17-inch cast aluminum wheels inside 275/40 series Goodyear Eagle F1 tires. Inside, firm buckets face a deeply hooded instrument panel with attractive overlapping gauges and a packed center console with easy-to-use stereo and ventilation controls. We think material quality is a notch below that of the Ford. The Z28 SS makes no bones about its performance intent. Its deep, unrelenting exhaust psychs out lesser cars from a block away. However, the handling prowess on the track is traded for a less civilized street manner. While not harsh, the Camaro is definitely in tune with the road's every ripple. Sticker shock shouldn't be too harsh either. The SS package adds $3,500 to the cost of a Z28 for a total as-tested price of $24,495. Still the best bang for the buck on any street. So on our scorecard, this fight ranks as a split decision, with the Camaro a clear winner on price and track performance. The Mustang counters with excellent road manners, comfort, and a surprising straight-line punch. So the Camaro versus Mustang battle lives on, but now as a classic puncher versus boxer confrontation instead of the all-out street fights of old. But whichever style you favor, 1998 Ford Mustang Cobra and Chevrolet Camaro Z28 SS are both ready and willing to go the distance. Coming up, the baddest buggy on the battlefield. Time once again to check in with Pat Goss. Let's see what kind of handy car care advice MotorWeek's master mechanic has for us this week.
John, convertibles have really become popular over the last few years, and that's understandable because a convertible is fun to drive and it sure looks good, especially with the top down. Now, if you take good care of the convertible top, it'll last a long time, but regardless of that, sooner or later, your convertible is going to need a new top. Now, when it needs a new top, regardless of what you've read, this is probably not a do-it-yourself operation, as you can see by what I'm going through here on my old Corvette. Mid-America Designs, they're the people that specialize in all the Corvette parts. They supplied the top for mine. Great fitting top and looks good, but look at the problems. You have to take the old top off, you have to check all of the materials, even things like the tacking strips where the top is tacked into this material to hold it in place, that had to be replaced. And that's typical on older cars, and it can be tough to get. Well, anyway, not a do-it-yourself operation. But when you go shopping for a top, what can you do? Well, you want one that is at least as good as what came on the car. That means you could go back to the dealer, and the dealer could supply one. Or you could find out who made the top originally. Like on this LeBaron, AMCO made the top, and they supplied the replacement for it. So we know that we have a good quality top. Now, you want to make sure that the top comes with all of the accessory pieces. And also remember that virtually all tops have, underneath them where the seams are, they have pads. And most times those pads will need to be replaced. Another thing that you might want to consider, like this Miata, its original window is small. It doesn't have any side windows and consequently has a horrendous blind spot. Well, you might be able to upgrade to something like this.
Of characters about it, yet no one believed it would reach production. Well, it did, and writings began anew. But they then focused on its lack of power. Isuzu fixed that with fuel injection and turbocharging, and more road tests followed. Well, next the theme turned to road manners. The Impulse still handled a lot like the economy car on which it was based. Well, now that's been fixed too. And how Isuzu did that is generating more words and pictures than ever.
The how can actually be answered with one word. That word is Lotus, the famed British sports car maker whose engineering branch was hired by Isuzu to retune the Impulse's suspension. Lotus dictated new springs and bushings, slightly stiffer gas shocks, and a larger front stabilizer bar. The result of the modest changes is a dramatic improvement in the way Isuzu's little rear-drive coupe handles. Front-end plow has been substantially reduced, and the Impulse's twitchy rear end is now firmly anchored to the pavement. But while the suspension has adopted a more European feel, Lotus's efforts on improving the Impulse's power steering were less successful. It still has a vague, overboosted feel that characterizes many Japanese sport coupes. It's especially noticeable during emergency maneuvers. Fortunately, the new suspension is so rock steady that you never feel any loss of control. An extra bonus of the new suspension is improved highway ride. It's smoother and quieter with an interior sound level of only 68 decibels. Of course, a new suspension deserves a more powerful engine, and in the Impulse you get a choice. We naturally opted for the more powerful one. It's a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder that makes 140 horsepower and 166 pound-feet of torque. Non-turbo Impulses get their power from a 2.3-liter 4-cylinder, putting out 110 horsepower. On the track, our Impulse Turbo turned in a 0 to 60 time of 9 seconds flat. The quarter mile ended in 16.8 seconds at 82 miles per hour. Acceleration times are helped along by a slick shifting 5-speed manual transmission. A 4-speed automatic is also available. The engine's power delivery system is smooth and consistent with minimal turbo lag. Engine noise is prominent, but still within acceptable limits. Braking is accomplished by power-assisted disc on all 4 wheels. These brought our test car down from 55 and an average distance of 108 feet. Stops are straight and steady, and the firm, smooth pedal is easy to control. Of course, the changes for 1988 aren't strictly mechanical. The Impulse Turbo also gets a dose of new styling to go along with its improved performance. The front end gets a sleeker hood, now without headlight doors. The lights themselves get smaller, as does the grille. And a pop-up sunroof becomes standard equipment on all Impulses. New taillights are also part of the package, and turbo models get a prominent body color spoiler. All this makes the Impulse Turbo one of the sharpest looking little Oriental GTs available. It's also one of the best equipped. Interior appointments that most manufacturers list as options are all standard on the Impulse. These include air conditioning, a cassette stereo, and a complete selection of power accessories. The front bucket seats are comfortable with good support and large side bolsters. Flaws include tacky seat fabrics, a clumsy manual height adjustment, and a single-setting lumbar adjustment that many drivers found to be uncomfortable. A 7-position tilt wheel is standard, as are passive restraints. Gauges are all analog. We like the circular tach and speedometer, but the bar-type gauges that make up the rest of the package are hard to read at a glance. Nevertheless, it is a very comprehensive package. Almost all controls are mounted on the gimmicky adjustable pods which move with the tilt wheel. They do keep all controls within finger reach of the steering wheel. Unfortunately, the wheel blocks your view of many of their switches. The standard cassette stereo is an excellent 80-watt Technics unit. Non-turbo Impulses get Isuzu's own 40-watt system. Rear seat room is typical of 2+2 style coupes. The smaller your rear seat passengers are, the better. We do, however, like the fact that seat backs can be adjusted for rake. The rear seat backs also fold all the way forward to allow access to the cargo area, or to provide extra space for larger loads. The extra space will be needed since the cargo area is narrow and shallow. There's only space for a couple of overnight bags here. The EPA rates the Impulse Turbo at 20 city, 25 highway. Our 100-mile mixed driving loop returned a very respectable 24 miles per gallon. As for price, the Impulse Turbo will run you $15,529. Our test car had one option, floor mats, so it cost $15,579. An automatic transmission is the only other option. In the area of competition, a comparably equipped Toyota Celica GTS will cost you a lot more. It has fewer standard features, but still holds the edge in handling. A loaded Ford Mustang GT will cost about the same and offers far superior acceleration, and it has more luggage space as well. In our safety check, the Impulse Turbo passes with front passive restraints and radial tires. It lacks rear shoulder belts, 5-mile-per-hour bumpers, and anti-lock brakes. The Impulse's much improved handling leads our list of hits. That's followed by the long list of standard features: smooth, efficient turbo engine, excellent braking performance, and sharp exterior styling. Misses include the over-boosted power steering, over-designed interior details, and marginal luggage space. This will probably be the last upgrade for the current Impulse platform. The aging rear drive chassis will likely be replaced with a new, possibly front drive design within a few years. In the meantime, the Impulse, with its Lotus suspension, finally handles as it should. And that should be enough to keep the words and pictures flowing for at least a few more years.
The 5 car divisions of General Motors are working hard to forge individual marketing images. Foremost among them is Oldsmobile. Now, even though Oldsmobile doesn't have an exclusive car design to sell, they have ways of making their position in the marketplace known. Relative to other divisions, Olds is supposed to be the one with technology and advancements. The new Olds Quad 4 16-valve engine is evidence of that. And to promote it, Olds has developed a project car called the Aerotech. But as you're about to see, the Aerotech goes far beyond mere promotion.
This is the Olds Aerotech. As the second half of its name implies, it's Oldsmobile's test bed for new technology, namely the Olds Quad 4 4-cylinder engine. Of course, the 150 horsepower 2.3-liter Quad 4 is already in production. It was introduced this year in the Olds Calais and will be used in numerous other GM models in the years ahead. So the work going on here should lead to even bigger and better things. There are really 2 Aerotech cars. Both use a similar chassis, but each has its own different bodywork and engine. Both engines are highly modified 2-liter versions of the 16-valve Quad 4. While they're smaller in displacement than the production engines, they make about 6 or 7 times the horsepower. Oldsmobile won't say exactly how much power they make, but it's enough to do some pretty spectacular things. At the Fort Stockton Test Center in Texas last August, the Aerotech, with a little bit of help from 4-time Indy 500 winner A.J. Foyt, set 2 world speed records. Despite some less than favorable conditions, the Aerotech captured the world closed course record at 257.123 miles per hour and the flying mile at 267.399 miles per hour. And given better conditions and a little work, Foyt believes the Aerotech could go 300 miles per hour in the flying mile. Aside from getting their name in the record books, Oldsmobile is learning a thing or two about the Quad 4 and about its electronic controls, something that may help Olds as they develop the production version of the Quad 4 Turbo. We drove a prototype Quad 4 Turbo Olds 98 2 years ago, and its performance was already impressive. Other lessons learned may go into this, a V8 engine based on the Quad 4. Naturally, it's called the Quad 8. This 32-valve 5-liter could produce as much as 300 horsepower in production trim. So the Aerotech may be leading Oldsmobile to engine design advances, and it may keep on setting records. Rumor is Oldsmobile wants to take the Aerotech to the Bonneville Salt Flats. There, the car may go even further beyond mere promotion, 300 miles per hour further.
Restore and Drive, Collectible Cars of Post-War America, isn't a book about the techniques of restoration. Author Bob Stubenroche tells how to select the right model of car to restore and how to avoid a project that could get you in over your head. A lot of people get in over their heads with cars, not the really old ones as much as the newer ones. But never fear, Pat Goss is here to bail them out. He has answers for 2 more viewers. Pat?
John, this time our letters are very interesting. Our first letter is from Doug of Reston, Virginia, and it concerns a 1978 Monza with an ignition control module problem. The Monza has burned out 3 modules in only a few months, often in only 300 to 500 miles. Both the ignition coil and the pickup inside the distributor have been replaced. Does MotorWeek have any ideas? Yes, as a matter of fact. The first one is one that is very simple. Here we have a control module that would be out of a distributor like this. Here's the module actually in the distributor right here. Now, one very common mistake, when the module is removed so that you can put a new one in, when you take the module out, underneath that module, the metal there has to be absolutely clean. You have to get in there and make sure that it is spotless. Then, before the new module is replaced, with just about all of the replacements, there'll be a little container of silicone grease that has to be applied to the back of the control module itself. Now, the silicone grease, what it does is it conducts heat. So between the metal of the distributor and the control module, the silicone grease acts to dissipate the heat away from the control module into the metal of the distributor and make the control module last longer. Keeps it from burning itself up. I'm betting that the problem may very well be right there. But there are a couple of other things in there. Make sure that all of the connections in here and that the capacitor over here, that it's properly attached and that all of these connections are clean and tight. And I think you'll find the problem right in there. Okay, now the next letter is from Jim McCarris from Youngstown, Ohio. Now he's written to us about a problem with oil consumption on his 1980 Chevrolet Camaro. In 1984, it started using oil, mostly due to worn valve guides. In May 1985, the engine was rebuilt, but 18,000 miles later, the engine is using more oil than ever. As a matter of fact, it's using a quart of oil every 300 miles. Where is the oil going? There are no visible leaks. Okay, well, if there are no visible leaks on an engine, that means it has to be burning oil. Now, the most common thing, especially on a rebuilt engine or a car that has had a valve job done not too long ago and it starts using oil again, Well, the most common thing is right here. This is a valve guide. The valve guide is nothing more than a hole that originally is machined through the cylinder head. The valve stem sits into it, and the valve rides up and down in the valve guide. Well, valve guides wear, and the valve gets loose in there like this. Once that happens, oil can run down around the valve guide into the engine and is burned. Now, don't be misled here, because just with burning of oil, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to see smoke at the tailpipe. The way it enters the cylinder, many times they can burn a lot of oil and no smoke. Okay, but what happens? Well, you take the car in and you have a valve job done, or you have the engine overhauled, and one quick, simple way to do this for a machinist is to knurl the valve guide. And if we look at this one carefully, we can see that there are spiral grooves cut into the valve guide. This expands the inside of this, making the valve fit tightly into the guide, at least for a while. Many times it tends to wear quite rapidly, and the original problem is back again. Okay, how do you prevent that? Well, if you have a car that you want to keep for a long period of time, and you want to make sure that the valve guides last, here's the method of choice. This is a bronze valve guide that has been installed into the cylinder head. Wears for a long time, does a much better job than knurling. Now, what I would do on this particular Camaro is that I would have a good mechanic check the valve guides and also check the valve stem seals, little seals that help keep the oil from going down into the guide. Check those two things, and I think you'll find the problem in one area or the other. And if you happen to have a problem with oil consumption, or you name it, how about dropping us a line here at Motor Week, Owings Mills, Maryland, 21117. That's Motor Week, Owings Mills, Maryland, 21117.
In 1985, Chevrolet thought they had found the formula for building an inexpensive American small car. In a partnership with Toyota, they created a new car company called NUMMI. And using Japanese-inspired techniques at a plant in Fremont, California, they proceeded to build the most trouble-free car in Chevrolet showrooms, the Chevy Nova. Despite that, Nova sales haven't been as high as Chevrolet expected. One reason, the Nova's a little too bland for today's taste. But now, Chevrolet has done something to change that image. It's the Chevy Nova Twin Cam, the Nova SS, if you will, of the 80s. But unlike the hot little Chevys of the past, this one doesn't have a V8. But its four-cylinder does have the right number of valves, 16. And with them and its twin cams, this 1.6-liter makes 110 horsepower. If you've been paying attention, you already know this is the same 16-valver that powers Toyota's FX16. And the Nova is actually faster than the FX16, but all the sensations are the same. The engine loves to rev and pulls best above 3,000 RPM, making sporty noises all the while. In numbers, that translates to 17.1 seconds to transit the quarter mile at 81 miles per hour. 0 to 60 took 9.5 seconds. Shifter action is also familiar. It's positive, only slightly notchy, and maybe just a touch too softly sprung. But front drive torque steer is minimal, and overall, getting up to speed in the Nova Twin Cam is sure to give a grin. And Chevrolet added more to the Twin Cam than just twin cams. The gas shocks and springs are a touch stiffer, and anti-sway bars have been added. The standard Nova has none. Thanks to all that, the Twin Cam is a lot more responsive and better at telling the driver what it's doing in turns. Its power rack and pinion steering gear is precise with excellent road feel at speeds. The Twin Cam also gets a brake upgrade with disc at the rear instead of drums. They stopped our Nova with a short 105-foot average from 55. Despite the new hardware, though, our car's rear brakes seem prone to premature lockup. Out on the highway, the Nova Twin Cam rides noticeably stiffer than the standard Nova, but it's no harsher than, say, a GTI or Escort GT. And there's one thing the Nova has that they don't: 4 doors.
which makes it easier to use the available room. Seat adjustment is minimal compared to some later Japanese designs, but the seats offer plenty of side and lower back support without being too firm. And the driver gets most of what he needs, including a 120 mile/hour speedometer and 7,500 RPM redline tachometer. As you might expect, rear seat room is tight for some, but the Nova does provide 3-point rear belts. The biggest complaint we have is the twin cam's price, $11,395 for starters. That's $2,500 more than the standard Nova. With options, our car would cost nearly $13,000. And here's something else you should know. If you want all the twin cam hardware, you'd better like the color black. It's the only one you can get. But the Nova Twin Cam offers a few things you can't get everywhere. Small car sportiness, power, and aggressive looks with the convenience of 4 doors. The Twin Cam won't please everyone's palate, but unlike the standard Nova, its taste is anything but bland.
Our car of the week is a 1958 Ford Skyliner. Gary W. Cook of Temple, Texas, is the guy who gets to put its steel top down. If you have a sharp convertible or anything else to show, send a good color photo in a stamped return envelope to Motor Week, Owings Mills, Maryland, 21117. From the past, we turn to the present and the future. Lisa Barrow handles that part, and she's here now with this week's Motor News. Lisa?
Thanks, John. The cars we have for you this time are a little out of the ordinary. While they debuted at auto shows this year, they're not really show cars. They're almost production models. And though they wear the badge of 2 different automakers, they're almost identical. The automakers are Mitsubishi and Chrysler. The car? The X2S. The X2S is the result of the Chrysler and Mitsubishi joint effort, Diamond Star. Diamond Star Motors of Normal, Illinois will soon produce cars very similar to this one, a version for Chrysler dealers and one for Mitsubishi. This 2+2 coupe is the Chrysler prototype. It's powered by a Mitsubishi engine that drives the front wheels. Final versions will have a choice of 3, the most powerful of which is this 2-liter 16-valve Turbo 4, the same engine that powers Mitsubishi's HSR show car. The production name for Chrysler's X2S is unknown, and it appears the car will be sold by Chrysler Plymouth and Jeep Eagle dealers. Here's the Mitsubishi version of the X2S. It's a 2-seat roadster, but shares the same basic lines and proportions and even door handles with the Chrysler. The Mitsubishi X2S has a neat-looking interior, and we're glad to see analog gauges here. Look for final versions of the X2S by this time next year. In other news, Audi has announced a new round of incentives, apparently in response to Audi dealers' upset over slow sales. Audi will offer incentives to dealers worth $1,000 on the Audi 80, $1,500 on the 80 Quattro, and $2,000 on the 90 and 90 Quattro. The deal is for cars sold between February 1st and April 30th. In addition, Audi will guarantee the resale value of all its 1988 models. If the retained value of an Audi is less than that of a competitor's product, Audi will pay the difference at trade-in time. Of course, this only works if you're trading for another Audi. John?
The auto industry is pretty big and is becoming increasingly automated. But believe it or not, out among all the microchips, there's still room for a bit of creativity. Craig Singhas learned this and a few other things out on the highway.
Computer-aided design. Today's state-of-the-art drawing board designers use to create our cars more quickly and efficiently.
Here in Blauvelt, New York, though, craftsmen work not with computerized concepts, but with traditional elements and techniques.
Ron David carves car parts from clay. His vocation mixes artistic and commercial values. An unlikely combination in an industry where 8-figure profits and a hard sell dominate. He works here at the Kolb Design Studios, where a team of craftsmen create custom styling packages for new cars. Kolb Design also does contracted styling design studies for the major auto manufacturers, often when a manufacturer wants to create new excitement for an existing model.
I think something like this, the biggest challenge is to make it look like it really fits the vehicle that you're putting it on, not like it's a afterthought or a different concept, but that it's an extension of the design of the vehicle.
David's artistry is merely one facet of a Kolb design production plan demanding creative freedom, patience, and a give-and-take attitude. It's an entrepreneurial experiment in worker incentive that's paid off for both management and labor, something uncommon to larger studios in the business.
Probably the main difference is that every creative impulse you don't have